Set to go. I think we're at 6:30, right?
Mhm.
We good?
We're all set to go, yeah.
Okay, you ready?
Yep.
Okay, we're filming. Welcome to the Essex Junction Trustees meeting. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and once again, thanks, and hope everyone's having a good summer. And trustees Lori Houghton and Elaine Sopchak will not be joining us tonight, but we do have a quorum. So, we're going to press ahead. Evan, any changes or additions to the agenda for tonight?
We do have a change. Item 6B, we have a revised memo to the original. We found a little discrepancy,
Okay.
and thanks to Andrew, Trustee Brown, asking us a question, we found it, so it's good to have it, and so
Great.
there's our change.
All right, thank you, and good job, Andrew.
The question I asked
You
was not
just
related
had-
to changes.
Okay, so, okay.
Happy to do it.
That was good.
Thank you, Laura.
Found stuff.
So do I hear a motion?
I move that we accept the agenda as amended.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we will amend the agenda. And I think that's it. And we have no one in the public to be heard tonight. I think we're looking at a fairly brief meeting. And so we'll move right on to new business. And we have renew the note for the Essex Junction Fire Department pumper truck. Lauren?
Yes, so last year we took out a note for $150,000 to help pay for the pumper truck. And we have actually paid for the fire truck in full at $573,347. Actually, there's gonna be a little bit more expense on that. He's added a bit of equipment to about $20,000, so.
Okay.
It's gonna be a little bit more, but, and it's a 5-year current expense note, and so it has to be renewed every year. We pay off $30,000 on the principal each year and plus interest. The interest last year was 1.5%, this year it's 2.8%, so things are going up. Maybe next year we should go out to bid and see if we can get a better rate, but
Okay.
anyway, for right now, this is through the People's United Bank, and we would like you to adopt the resolution, sign the current expense note, and actually there's a non-arbitrage certificate that needs to be signed as well.
Okay. So, any questions, first of all?
Just with your comment about the interest rate, my understanding is that the Federal Reserves have raised interest rates, and that across the board, interest rates are up on every kind of loan, so I would
Right.
expect that this is within as close to competitive as we can probably get.
Well, I think it's pretty low, I think they do give us pretty good rates.
We have pretty good credit.
We have pretty good credit.
Okay, so do I hear a motion that we adopt the resolution and accept and sign the expense note for the pumper truck?
So moved. Second.
Okay. Any further discussion?
And the non-arbitrage certificate too?
And the non-arbitrage certificate as well.
I'll accept the friendly amendment.
And I'll second.
All right. Sorry about that. Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, passed. Thank you. I'll send this around the sign. So now we are on to the second, the revised new business item under new business for the FYE 19 village tax rate. And Lauren, if maybe you could just, for the camera, just go over this briefly, just the numbers. Is that okay?
Well, I'd like to talk
Yes,
about
please.
Andrew's.
Yeah, fine, that's good, thank you. I didn't want to
Andrew's
just,
request.
I didn't want to just say
And
yes.
then I can go through the numbers.
Yeah, good, thanks.
So we sent this out Friday, and Andrew sent an email and asked us what the values of the stabilized properties were before they were stabilized.
Uh-huh.
And so in looking at that, I said, oh dear, so 8 Pearl Street hadn't gone up any, and so I asked I asked Randy about that, and he said, well, I didn't go in and look at it. And I'm like, that's interesting. And apparently, if you're doing maintenance on a property in the village, you do not have to get a permit, so he wasn't aware of the maintenance being done over there. I guess if you increase the living space, they do need a permit, but not for maintenance. And so he hadn't gone over to look at it, and so we called Praxis Holdings and got in there, and we've done an errors and omissions and increased the assess rate to $354,300
Okay.
from $193,800.
Oh, that's significant. Yeah,
Which brings up, for a future topic of, the village doesn't require a permit if you're just, doing some siding or something's already there and you're replacing it. What is happening though is the town assessor is then not aware of anything going on the property. And so if you remodel your kitchen and you bring up the value of your property in the village, they have no permit, they have no record. The only time they tend to then find out if something occurred is if you sell your house and they get an MLS record. And by then, you may have had years of not having a change in value. So we'd like to maybe, from a staff perspective, try to figure out maybe a suggestion of how we could do that in the future.
Now, just curious, wouldn't that be the same for a town, outside the village? No, they're
Really
required
not.
to get
The
permits?
town requires
Permits for
permits.
those, okay.
Yeah.
So then why aren't the town, we are part of the town, and, that's, for that aspect of it, it's not, yeah.
It's under our land development code.
It's in our land development code.
too.
Can you, Evan, just for the record, can you clarify though, if someone is painting their house, at what point does someone need a
That's-
permit?
Yeah, that's what we want to go through.
You need to, because there are some new cabinet doors in their kitchen, they probably aren't gonna need a permit for that. So
Right.
we wanna
And-
make sure
and
we
we're
get
not
clear.
even, and for us in our internal discussion, it's not about inspections, it's not about revenue towards a permit revenue.
Mhm.
It's just about how does the assessor get any information so that the taxes that people pay are equitable to the value of your property.
Mhm.
And so when we do things like have 4 Pearl built, now while it has a 5-year tax stabilization deal, at the end of those 5 years, the value that you're seeing on this form will rise and be added to the grand list. But if we don't know that you've created value, your value will stay until it's reassessed.
I could see that for multi-family properties, rentals, other such, but when we're talking single-family homes and such, I go against that. I can see it where it's an investment property. I own 4 Pearl, I own a multi-unit complex, and it's investment, I'm making money off of it. I'm enhancing that property to generate more for me, that's one thing. But for personal, single family, people that are strapped, they're just doing basic stuff in the house, I have a tough time with that.
I tend to agree, but I know that if you increase I know the technical term, the surface area, if you
Yeah.
expand, if
Oh,
you
yeah.
extend out your house, if
You
you
need a
extend
permit.
out a porch, you extend
Right.
out
Right.
onto your.
Mhm.
Your footprint
Then
is
you need
changing.
your footprint, then you need a permit, and then you have altered the value. But I
Exactly.
can understand there needs to be some clarification, because I think it'd be extremely hard for local authorities, whether they are in the village or the town, to be chasing down every single person who's doing something to their house.
Like
You
put
get
up,
a lot of
like,
people that
like
do
put up 20 feet of fence,
Yeah,
so.
Yeah.
But we'll,
you'll work it out.
okay.
Yeah.
It's not imminent,
Yeah.
it's just something.
Yeah,
you-
gotcha.
And I'll give you one, so you take a house, it's say vintage 1920s and you got it, or,
Mhm.
and then you redo it completely. What is that? Is that what you're thinking, or is that
Well,
changing?
for your personal, home,
Mm.
and you're not renting it out, you're just doing it for you?
And
I think
then,
you're,
and then how would we know if it became a rental?
that's just as much as when they come around and do the census, I don't have to let anybody into my home. I don't have to, they're not entitled to go and do, and so they have to just do it from the exterior look and whatever, they can base it on whatever they wanna do. The assessor doesn't have the right to go inside my house. And I can't think of the last time I had the assessor by, because I was working or whatever, and just, and I think there's a lot of circumstances like that. To go and start going inside people's homes, I mean, they've got gold plumbing, they've got whatever, I mean, they've got, the Taj Mahal inside.
Well, I think, it does, I just only, it cuts both ways, because the assessor might be you might be overvalued, and if you've got old appliances, old cabinets, old stuff, then you might see your assessment.
You could, but you know what, I think that across the board, I think that would be the less common situation.
I think having some scenarios at a future meeting would be great, so we can
Yeah.
try to figure out what a good trigger would be.
Sure.
Yeah,
Or maybe, the assessor could
Yeah.
right,
enlighten us as to what they do in the
Right.
town.
right.
Okay, so we
So
interrupted you,
Yeah.
Lauren, so, yeah.
Okay, so the numbers, so we're recommending a general tax rate of .3098 per $100 of assessed value. We voted to raise $3,423,606 in property taxes in FY '19. Our grand list, as adjusted since we found the error, is $11,103,656.
Lori, can I stop you for a second? Sorry to keep interrupting. Do you know what the town's grand list is outside the village? I just
26, outside 15 million something.
So the total grand list is 26 million,
Yeah.
and the town grand list is 15, and the village grand list is 11.6.
Right.
11 what?
11
Sorry.
more.
Okay. And that includes Global Foundries.
That
The-
does.
the Global
That
Foundries
does.
in the
Now,
village
Global
group.
Foundries is now at
They
79
got
million.
reassessed downwards.
Yeah,
See, they went inside
79
Global Foundries and said, oh yeah, we're
728.
gonna. If you own a microprocessing manufacturing plant, it behooves you to bring the assessor in, as an example.
So the Global Foundries is now valued at 79,728,000.
Okay.
So we had to, because of our tax stabilization agreements, we reduced the grand list amount
Mhm.
by 52,568.
Yep.
In order to come up with our tax rate of .3098. And we have to remember and not forget that we have that penny tax
Yes.
for economic development that will also be billed to village taxpayers.
Okay.
And-
Okay.
And
Great.
then I did want to go over these, at the back, this was Andrew's questions, what were these values before they started, before we did the tax stabilization. Now, Fort Pearl was already in process,
Mhm.
so when we gave them tax stabilization, they were at 3,141,800. And last year, the value was 5,783,000. The value this year is 6,389,900, and Randy says that they are not done.
Yep.
So that's gonna go up more.
Yep.
And then I've given you scenarios of, what we're billing them on as we go forward. And in year 3, we will have, gotten back up to the amount we stabilized for Fort Pearl. And I believe in year 4 for 8 Pearl Street, because 8 Pearl goes over 5 years because it's a historic building.
Right. Right.
So that was a good question, and it caught that.
Do you want to comment now, or do you want to go through this?
No, I'm kind of done.
Because I don't want to interrupt. I appreciate you doing it, because what I was trying to get at is, it shows how the pre-development versus the post-development, and that the post-development has nearly doubled in both instances, the grand list value. So the tax stabilization, while the first year they're paying 30%,
Right.
after that, they're paying more than they would have anyways. So
Right.
the bonus back to the taxpayers directly from the tax stabilization is significant, let alone the fact that however many employees there were at the bank before it shut down was maybe 5 or so. Now there's a lot more employees there, plus it's a place where people can actually live, so that the purposes have increased. the overall net benefits have significantly outweighed that cost. So thank you for showing that.
Agreed, and when you look at Fort Pearl, I don't know what the bank's last value was.
It was about
Right.
$1.5 million,
Yeah.
So
something
you're
like that.
getting
Oh, $1.5 million,
6
yeah.
times the value.
So even that first tax stabilization payment is still more than what their full tax payment was when it was the bank.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
I tried to make that point when people say, oh, we're paying.
Right.
You try to say, no, it automatically starts.
Right.
When you grant tax stabilization, you're automatically making at a higher tax rate than what you were before. I mean, yeah.
Good points.
Thank
So other things that you might want to know is our land list increased by 1.3%. The increase in the tax rate is 3.4%. And it will be $29 for a $280,000 home will be the difference because of the increase in the tax rate this year.
Okay. Okay, so I've got to reiterate that for the camera. So the total on an average village home of value of $280,000, the increased tax rate amounts to an increase of $29 over last year's taxes in actual dollars, not in decimals, but in actual dollars.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions for Lauren?
Again, thank you for doing this.
You're welcome. Thank you for asking the question.
Okay, so do I hear a motion?
I'll move that we set the FYE 19 village general tax rate at $0.3098 per $100 of assessed property value.
Second?
Oops.
Any further questions, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it moved.
Done.
Fantastic. And so we are now on to the town village reorganization chart, and one of the reasons I had sort of asked when we had the joint meeting if we could move a little slowly on this, because I wanted to give, because Dan, you weren't there, and Lori wasn't there, and I just thought it was significant and important enough to slow down and let you have time to comment on it and ask questions about it. I don't think, and Evan, you know what, I'll back off and let you maybe talk about it, and you can sort of describe for Dan what the reasoning and the thinking is, and how you see it being implemented and all that.
Sure. So for Andrew and some others who watch other meetings like the joint meeting, this will be somewhat of a repeat, but the idea was brought in to be the unified manager. I have 18 reports to me, people who report to me in one way or another. And I really was feeling that I didn't have enough time and ability to supervise 18 of them. And then as we started to do alignment, you guys are doing consolidation, we're looking to do alignment. And alignment is, where are our policies, where are our procedures? Finance is consolidated, but we have 3 either union or association contracts. We have all these different work rules and our police is 24/7, 365. Our fire department is paid on call. We have 2 different libraries. We have all these little different personnel rules and finance things and contract things, and we're just trying to hone them back in. And I get pulled from pillar to post. So the idea would be span of control, having a assistant manager have about 6 people underneath them to be able to give these departments direct access to administration, what we're trying to achieve, communications. Ultimately, all of these departments still report to me. It's just that some of the day-to-day stuff, some day-to-day decisions or planning, they're not gonna get to see me for a few more days than they would be able to see an assistant. So if you have something that's pressing, it'll probably go to them first, and then maybe once they've got a few things thought out, researched, solved, they come to me and go. what do you think? Or we're thinking A, what are you cool, and we do A. So that's really what this is about. And then the original idea was maybe getting this started August 1st. There's no magic to August 1st. This was the idea when, we were moving faster, and now if it's slower, doing our research, this can go into effect in a couple of months. But even so, it's just about how we're communicating, how we're getting through our business plan, how we're working together, and to give the employees some sense that, how we communicate to them of what's going on and why we're doing it, and that they shouldn't fear from this because you guys are doing your consolidation talks, and that's probably gonna lead out into the future for a vote. But internally, we're gonna have to continue to do alignment no matter what happens with a vote, in terms of certain processes and procedures. And then I thought I'd answer questions.
Okay.
And I did bring this to the department heads first and asked them for their opinions, and they had some questions as to why certain departments would report to certain assistant managers. And there was a question of, both of them are town employees, but we don't look at it that way. We look at who can give you good supervision, who's got some knowledge in that area. In rec, we deal with a lot of money coming and money processes with fees. On the other side, with what is done under the deputy town manager, Greg Duggan, it's a lot of process and procedure. So we wanted to keep sort of the money on the one side, policy and procedure, and then, as I had mentioned to Max, it's a guess of what the fit would be, or an educated guess. It's not set in stone. If somebody changes positions, or maybe we get a new department head and you want somebody else to, be their supervisor just because they're better at it or they have a knowledge in it, we move. That's all. And we think we will be better able to handle a lot of the things that are coming our way in a more of a controlled way.
I just make one correction. I think it was Dan who was not present. Andrew was present, so
Yeah. No,
they look exactly the same, I know. But it's, it was Dan.
Why, thank you.
my younger brother.
So I didn't know if you had any questions,
No,
Dan? or-
no, I'm fine with that. Kind of, it's similar to what the work structure I've dealt with in my career is, there's a chain of command, there's procedures, and it's how you go, and I had new supervisors often, and if I changed position, I accept that. I realize that I think it makes for a smoother operation. I think internally, I don't know, as far as externally, that's up in the air, whether there's gonna be change, I don't foresee anything, but how the public will, if there will be any notice, the change for the public,
We talk internally, so, one of the reasons you have it is, so, sake of argument, you have, the two community development departments will report to the assistant deputy manager. Well, the reason why they're both under him is, as we align policies, he can have a staff meeting amongst his 6. It's impossible to get 17 or 18 department heads in a room. And then you're talking about something at community development. The rest of them have nothing to do with how a permit is issued or what's the permit process. They have nothing to do with it. So they're sitting there listening to a discussion that has nothing to do with them. So, and we have precious time. So the idea is with some of this is he can bring the two department heads in and say, okay, how do you do it? How do you do it? And they're productive amongst themselves versus bringing other people in who have no idea what you're talking about.
The only thing, I raised this in our joint subcommittee, governance subcommittee meeting as a question to be answered, and I'll state it now, is that exterior organizations in which Essex Town and Essex Junction are considered separate municipalities with separate charters. There is, one does wonder at what point they look at us reorganizing and say, yeah, you don't really qualify as two separate communities anymore. I think it's something for us to be, I'm not raising a red flag right now, but it's something for us to keep in mind, that how far can we go before various exterior agencies that we belong to, where we have two seats, say, wait a second, are you guys one or two? Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
I brought that subject up with Charlie Baker, the director at the Regional Planning Commission, CCRPC, and he's assuring me, no, that you shouldn't have
Okay.
it back.
Good. Good.
Just to clarify that.
Just want to keep that in our
I
head.
had the discussion with them last week. I had a meeting last week with them, and
It's
so.
been a while since I've looked at it, but they
Yeah.
have a statute similar to
Yeah.
our charter that's within the state statute, which we are listed as a member. So I would assume that as long as we have a separate charter, that
Separate
lists us
charter.
as a community, that we have a seat.
But I would also just sort of blanket, because there are other municipal,
Yeah.
what do you call them? Special districts that we belong to.
Like Jim Solid Waste.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, as long as
Champlain Water District, that
Yeah.
type of thing.
as long as we have a charter, we are a municipality.
Yeah, I'm not raising it as now, but it's just something to consider. Okay, anything else to add with this?
No.
Evan?
No, I'm enjoying working here.
Good.
You mean in Vermont or in which did
Is
you
that
mean?
where we are?
Yeah. Where are you localizing that?
I enjoy the projects that we're working on. We work with very dedicated people, and it's challenging.
It is. It's good. Challenging is good.
Just writing out how many departments we have and who reports to who, and
It's a big
how's this
operation.
all gonna play.
It's all going to work out fine. All right. Okay, so that's it. There was no
We don't
action to
need
be
any
taken.
action.
It was just an informational thing. So we'll move on to the manager's report.
Oh, I guess I jumped the gun. I enjoy working here. You all just approved the note for one more year on the fire truck. We actually get it, we believe, early next month, the new fire truck here in the village. This coming Saturday is block party
Mm-hmm.
over on Railroad.
Mm-hmm.
Please plan to attend for those people at home. It's going to be a great event. I believe it's 16, 17 years of Block Party. Steam Fest then comes in September.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the crews, this is paving season here in the village and in the town. So we have a lot of paving projects. One of the things that and Rick is very adamant about is that paving get done before the fair.
Yes.
We do not like paving going past into September and October, because the night's temperature changes, and that's bad. You want 50 degrees and rising for pavement. You do not want those cool evenings, because asphalt will contract too fast and cold. And so, but we have a means and a method, and we are also working on the capital list and we have a bunch of projects. The Plan Commission did approve Mr. Handy's proposal to build a hotel on Pearl Street, right next to Dollar Tree.
Yep.
Which is something that I think the village and many of the local businesses, including CVE, really wanted for that area. The Convention Visitors Expo loses business when they are not able to provide hotels nearby, and they lose those to South Burlington and other smaller venues where people get to stay on site or next door, and it makes it easier for the exhibitors to just come and go. So we are looking forward to that. And then that's about it of what's going on.
Okay.
Well, also just adding to the fact that the Expo loses the business from not having a hotel or, you know, a motel nearby. The restaurants in this area of this business, the stores in this business is, those people are staying there, they're going to restaurants closer to their hotel.
Right.
The other
They, you know,
areas.
so, people, you know, who, you know, are now spending the night in South Burlington, you know, whether it's near the airport or near Burlington, why come back here to eat?
Mhm.
You might as well go
Right.
back to your hotel room, drop your stuff, and go eat near the hotel. You might as well, now you can eat here.
Yeah.
That's the theory. CVE was at the Plan Commission. They were supportive of the hotel. There were several local businesses that were also asked by the petitioner. They seemed to be, they were for it. There are, you know, what would be a couple of neighbors, which would make sense, that live behind the property that were not. But this has been on our wish list
Yeah.
for quite some time.
Yeah, it will have to go through Act 250 review because it's not in the village center. So if it was in the village center, it wouldn't have to, but if it's in the village, it's not in the village center zone, so it's gonna have to go through Act 250 review, so it would be delayed. Hopefully not too long, but at least not through the Act 250 process. It's by interrupting you.
By going through the Act 250 process, is that going to exclude them from being required to any other planning commission processes or any permitting processes with the village?
Now, they're done. I think there were things that they were sort of promissory that have to be ticked off before they get their certificate of occupancy. But it won't have to come back through the planning commission for a formal, you know, another review. And Act 250 doesn't amend, I don't think. It's just either accept or they find something wrong and then
Gotcha.
then it would have to you know, potentially start all over again. Yeah. On another note, if I could just ask Andrew very quickly, in Front Porch Forum, there was a notice saying, who makes the decisions on how streets get paved in the village? Why do some streets get paved and others don't?
Yep.
My street's awful. That other street that's getting paved doesn't look too bad.
So when I saw that, I forwarded it to Evan
Yes.
as is in our charter. And while I can give the explanation, my hope is that village staff can do it, as it really is within their purview to oversee when the paving happens. So I don't know if you
And I
wanna-
just worked on
Go
that
ahead.
today to be able to answer that. So, every 2 years, the CCRPC, the Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission, comes through our village and helps us rate our paving of our streets, street by street. They rate it from failed to good. And there's about 6 steps, there's about 6 grades in between there, and they color code it. And when a street is graded as failed, we put it on our to-do repaving list. The village budgets about $225,000 for just what my term is a mill and overlay. They take down about a 1/2 inch to an inch. That's the mill part. They make sure all the sub-base that they can see in some known bad areas get addressed. And then you put the top dressing back over it, and then we reset the sewers and catch basins to be level with the street. Because if you've ever taken a plow over a semi-raised sewer,
Something bad happens.
it will rattle your teeth and make your arms numb because it'll vibrate the blade through the truck. So that's how we do it. So that's how you get on that list. It's all done by ratings. But here's the other thing. When you go out to bid, you're trying to have enough work for the bid to be enticing for companies to come. And you want to generally keep it roughly in the same area because they don't want to stop and start by moving to other neighborhoods. So you don't want to do like 10 blocks in a circle around the village. You want to keep it like in a quadrant. So we take the ones that are the worst, put them together, try to keep them close, and that's what we do for about $225,000. If a street also needs other things done to it that may be creating why the pavement is failing, like if we have water main breaks. On Iroquois, we've had several water main breaks. So we are not just going to mill the top, we need to go down, get the water main, fix and replace it, which basically means we're gonna have to do a full reconstruct. That is 3 to 5 times the cost. That goes to the capital planning committee to be put into a higher end money pot that has to be shared throughout the village. And that's kind of why, even those, why that road pavement is bad and maybe as bad as other things, its cost is also 5 times more and has to be done in
different sequence.
different
Right.
sequence.
Yeah, I would add that that's the reason why I think it's baffling for some people. They might live on the street and it looks like it's got a lot of potholes and everything, but it's also traffic counts. But they will look at it and say, in some other street that doesn't look like it's in bad shape, it's getting all ripped up. But the problem is that there could be a culvert collapsing underneath that street. They have to get to it or it's just gonna completely cave in.
You know, Pleasant Street is on the watch list, but Pleasant Street needs a new water main. It also needs some sewer work.
Yeah,
And so Pleasant Street is not a mill and overlay. It is going to
it's
be
a reconstruction.
a reconstruct. It is also very difficult because it is a collector's, it acts as a collector street,
Yeah.
which means it is getting traffic going from Main Street to Mansfield to either Densmore or to Maple. And so it is a higher volume street,
Yeah.
which will also, it's also a bus, I believe there are some school buses that come through there for some, somebody was telling me there's.
Oh, yeah, yep.
There are some school buses that come through there
Oh,
for
yeah.
whatever reason,
Yeah.
maybe for the park or something, and whatever they're doing, and so we're gonna have to figure out how they're going to go.
Right.
Yeah, there are some smaller buses, EJRP school buses go through there. The school districts before the consolidation or before the merger had or has a smaller bus for those with disabilities that were being picked up.
So that's kind of how it works, and so today, staff wrote up an explanation that will go back out on the front porch
Good job.
forum to be able to answer that, and when we talked about communications, we don't necessarily want or be able to have a full dialogue back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, but when we do see something that keeps popping up that can get an answer, we'd be happy to put that answer out there.
Okay.
Yeah, and I appreciate you guys doing it is from one sense of, one trustee is just that, it's my opinion based on my own best knowledge, whereas coming from the municipality, there can be a little bit more of I would say, a meat to that, more of a cloud going with it. So I appreciate the responsiveness as well.
And one other thing is we are constantly looking for grants. There really is not any federal or state money for straight paving work.
No.
All right, those are your streets as a taxpayer and as a municipality. But if there's any type of water quality or catch basins or removal of pavement, you know, those types of things, sometimes there are local grants for those things, and the village and the town have done a very good job of getting some of those monies. Like if you, in the past, if you have had a large paved cul-de-sac and you reduce its size and put green space in it, reducing the amount of water runoff and other things, you might be able to apply for a grant for some of the cost of that. Less pavement, less cost,
Okay.
less runoff.
Okay, thanks, Evan. So, any other comments, trustee, manager comments? We all good?
I was gonna thank the staff for doing that, for responding to our report forum, so. Thanks.
Dan, good?
I'm good.
Okay, so we will move on to the consent agenda.
I'll move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So I will make a motion that we enter into executive session for the purpose of discussing a real estate issue, and we will invite the community development director to attend.
As a friendly amendment, in accordance with 1 VSA section
Yes.
313A2.
Yes, do you want to read the whole thing?
Nope.
Any further discussion?
Oh, did you second?
Oh, and I seconded that amendment.
You seconded, okay.
Yes.
Good?
I'm good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, and I'm sorry, we need to, I'm sorry.
She doesn't have to.
I got
attend.
it. Are you gonna have?
We're gonna have the finance director involved, attend as well.
I was gonna say
And
she doesn't have to.
She doesn't have to. Okay.
Okay. She'll be
Yeah,
there.
sounds like she
She'll
will.
be there.
Okay,
Okay.
so we amend it, so we,
Yeah.
I make a motion that we accept the amend the motion as,
Second.
okay? Approve the amendment,
Aye.
okay, now the whole motion?
Aye.
Okay, good. And we're gonna take a 10-minute break while we clear the room. Thank you.
So fill me in on how long you think.
I